Mr. Ford here, and welcome to Coding Camp Day 1.2. Content covered in this video includes making your sprite move to a new location, and that location causing your backdrop or background to change. To do this, we're going to learn how to make your sprite identify different colors, and creating multiple backgrounds that you can change on command. Let's get started. So we're going to start off in the Scratch by making sure that we have two costumes uploaded for our sprite, a standing costume and a running costume. Your running costume only needs to be running in one of the two directions. You don't need a third image, and that's because we have this flip horizontal icon. So we can actually turn our character around, turn our image around, depending on which way we want it to run. And I'll show you that later on. Now, we're going to go ahead and insert two separate backdrops, a first backdrop and a second backdrop. You can see our first backdrop here is this room. You can see there's a closed door that our character needs to go through. We're going to call this in the room. And if we upload another backdrop, we've got the actual room you can see through the window in this first image right here. We'll call this out of the room. So now we have one sprite with two costumes and two separate backdrops. We're going to go ahead and click on our sprite and go to the code section, and you can see I've already started with the event when sprite is clicked, which means when the character is clicked in this game or in this activity, the code will start being read, the code will start going. So we're going to start over in looks, and we're going to select change backdrop, and we're going to make sure that we've selected the appropriate backdrop, the backdrop we want this activity to start with. Then we're just going to move around our sprite a little bit. You can see down here in X and Y the coordinates of our sprite, where they are on the screen. We can head up to motion and select the go to coordinates block, and it'll already have the coordinates of where your sprite currently is typed in there. If you want to change it, you just click on it. X is on the left side, Y is on the right. X means your left and right movement of your character, whereas Y means up and down. 0 and 0 is in the dead center of your screen, and all of the positive numbers are to the left and up, negative numbers to the right and down. We're going to go ahead and we're just going to ask our sprite to wait a few seconds before gliding to some new coordinates. So remember last time we talked about you don't use go to, or else your character will just jump to the place that you're going to. It's not going to look like they're walking. They just kind of magically teleport over there. And so we're going to use glide, and we're going to set these new coordinates to be right at the door. So our character is going to go right to the door. And if we go ahead and test this, so we click the green flag to start and then click our sprite. You can see the code is activated when we click the sprite, and he makes his way over there. It's a little too fast, so we're going to slow down this glide. We're going to add some time to the glide. Let's try again. Starts off. That's much better. Slowly glides over to the door. So far we've used an event block, a look block, two motion blocks, and one control block. Well, next we're going to go back to control blocks, and we're going to select an if-then block. This is very, very common coding language. If something happens, then something else will happen because of it. There are other if-then blocks in Scratch, the if-then or else block, but in this case we're just going to use this one. Now that if-then block has two separate spots. It has that hexagon sort of frame up at the top, and it has this big opening, kind of like an alligator's mouth or a dinosaur's mouth, where we can insert other coding blocks. In the hexagon one, we're going to go to sensing, and we are going to select if one color is touching another color, something is going to happen. Now, we're not going to use pink and green. We're going to use colors that are actually on our scratch. So we're going to go ahead and select the eyedropper. Come on up here, and I'm going to select the color of the top of our sprite's hair. And then we're going to go to the second color, green. We're going to select the eyedropper, come on up here, and we're just going to select this blue star that's on the door. So when the character's hair touches that blue star, something is going to happen. Our then is going to happen. So now we've got to put a then command, a then block, or a series of then blocks inside of this sort of dinosaur mouth here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go back up to look, and we're going to say switch backdrop. And we're going to switch the backdrop to outside of the room. Now when we go ahead and click, our character starts off on one side of the room, makes their way over to the door, and when they get to the door, we switch backdrops and it looks like they've entered the next room. Not bad, but we can do better. So far, our character has just been standing in one place and they haven't gone anywhere once they get to the new room. So now what we're going to do is we're going to have them go through the door, and we're going to have them enter the next scene in a different spot from where they were to the door. Now, you can see while I'm explaining this, I'm kind of fooling around. I'm having a bit of a problem getting my character where I want them. This is because the event I've used is click on sprite. So every time I move the sprite to figure out the coordinates I want to go to, it starts the process, it starts practicing the code again. So the way you can deal with this, just break your code off of your event. Now, when you click on your sprite, nothing happens. That event doesn't lead to anything because there's no coding blocks attached to it. So here I'm just playing around with where I'm going to place my character so it looks reasonable that they've entered the scene. I'm going to put them all the way over here in the corner, and I can take a look at that XY underneath my screen, and I can change it on my go-to. So now when they change scenes, they're going to automatically go to that top section, and then I'm going to add in a new glide, and I'm going to have them glide over to the left. Right about there. That looks pretty good. So now that I'm ready to test again, I'm going to grab onto my code from the top, and I'm going to drag it back up to my event block, click on my character, and here we go. My character starts making their way towards the door. My sensing if-then command changes the scene, and my character glides back to the other side. But it doesn't look real. My character is just standing and kind of hovering across. So what we're going to do next is we're going to add another look into our code. We're going to add the running look. And I'm just noticing here, you can see my character names are gibberish, so we need to go over to the costumes and just quickly set their names. Standing, running. Alright, so here we go. We're going to click our sprite, and they're running. I know their legs aren't moving, but it looks a lot more realistic than before. We switch scenes, and they're running backwards. Still not going to work. So right now, we only have 2 costumes. We need a third. We need running in the opposite direction. So we're going to go ahead, go back to Upload Costume, select the same image I used for running in one direction, and I'm going to call this one Running Left. We're going to call that first one we had Running Right. Then we're going to head back to our code and insert another look. This time, we're going to insert that look closer to the bottom. We're going to change the costume to running down here at the bottom here, to running to the left. So we've got running to the left here. And as good practice, we'll head over to Control and grab ourselves a stop block. So this code stops once we've made it to the other side. So here we go. Let's try it this time. We did it! Fantastic. So that is how you move a character from one location to another and have that movement change the scene. I'm Mr. Ford, and this has been Coding Camp Day 1.2. Content covered in this video included making your sprite move to different locations, changing backgrounds, teaching your sprite to identify colors, and making your background or backdrop change on command. Join me for Coding Camp Day 1.3 as we tackle character conversation and getting your sprite to talk.